Yeah, and according to Goldman Sachs, about 65% of the economists that they spoke to in their poll did predict a recession. We will see. It's important to remember why we are in this situation today, why Jerome Powell is having to raise the interest rate by another 25 basis points. And that's because of the $3.37 trillion, that's trillion with a T, in new spending since President Biden came into office over the past 2 years. And that spending, and of course, you know, the Fed missed the early signs of inflation, but that spending led us to where we are today and to the economic situation that we're in. I also thought it was interesting that Jerome Powell spent a lot of the press conference warning of what would happen if America, quote, doesn't pay our bills, referencing the debt debate that is going on in Washington right now. McCarthy still trying to get President Biden to meet with him. Looks like it may happen soon. But clearly, Jerome Powell was warning people that America's failure to pay our bills and to pay that on time will have lasting consequences for our economy, at least in the short run.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting, Britt, that it is off to, we'll have that negotiation with the congressional leaders in the White House over the debt ceiling next week and talking about the budget. But the president's campaign launched. He's out with a second campaign today. He focuses on the U.S. economy, but he's taking tomorrow and the next day off as far as events. Take a listen to a piece of that ad.
Joe Biden's building an economy that leaves no city, no town, no American behind.
We're investing in places and people that have been forgotten. They've been invisible, but we haven't forgotten.
You know, it uses that forgotten man and woman theme, but obviously the polls show concern about the U.S. economy, Britt.
Yeah, this is going to be a hard sell. I mean, I suppose they have to try because the economy is so important in these elections. But people hate this economy, and if there's a recession, they're going to hate it even more. So I guess I have to try this, but I don't see it's going to sell very well. And let's remember one other thing, too, when you hear the hand-wringing and see the hand-wringing, I should say, about defaulting on our debt. Defaulting on our debt, our national debt payments, would be a choice because there's enough tax revenue coming in, more than enough, to cover those payments. Now, if we don't raise the debt limit, a lot of other bills won't be paid, and it will be ugly, and there'll be spending cuts and so on. But it will not necessarily be a default. That would be a choice by the administration and the Treasury Department to let that happen.
Leslie, final word.
Well, you know, I think Powell was signaling in his speech today that in September, perhaps that this would be the last rate hike, and in September things will come down. And I don't think this is surprising. And I think, you know, even though the economists, like Morgan said, have predicted a recession, they keep predicting it and pushing it 6 months down the road, 6 months down the road. And regarding those polls, I don't believe the polls, because if we believed the polls, there would have been a tsunami in the midterms, and it would have been me that was drowned, my party, the blue, and it didn't happen.
Morgan, you believe the polls?
It depends. If they tell me what I want to hear, I guess I do believe them. I'm just kidding, Leslie. Well, listen, you don't have to look at the polls. Right? Just go to the grocery store with me. Go to the grocery store with moms like me around the country. Let's look at the price of eggs in the last presidency under Donald Trump. Let's look at the price of eggs now, the price of milk. That's whomever the Republican nominee is, that's what they need to run on. People aren't happy. They're still making choices of whether to fill up their gas tank full of gas or to go in the grocery store and fill up their cart full of groceries. And as long as they're making those choices, they're not going to be happy.